Present.
Ricky Simone, Executive Director Mooney,
Present.
Present.
Thank you. Today's agenda for the Legislative Committee will begin with discussing and voting on approving the minutes from February 5th, 2026. Do we have questions or comments about the minutes?
No questions, no comments. I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
And I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the next item is the committee will discuss to vote upon campaign finance and election legislation submitted by other persons and entities in the General Assembly. And that the committee would, at a future date and time, present a report of recommendations to the full board. The director will walk us through it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'm going to go through the House bills that are before you today. Then I will go through the Senate bills. The House bills, first I will cover a bill that was, there are 12 bills in total in front of us today. Two of them are essentially companion bills that have already been voted upon by the subcommittee. And one of those companion bills is actually a bill that was tabled as well. So I'll go through those and I'll note when there was a companion bill, so the committee can decide whether or not any discussion is needed or warranted on it. The first bill, and I'm hoping I'm going in the same order as you, House Bill 7495. That bill is it was introduced by Representatives Boylan, and this was an act that would authorize the use of campaign funds for security-related expenses. And at the previous meeting, the committee ordered to ask the staff to work with the sponsor, and Rick Thornton has reached out to the sponsor, and I'm going to let Rick speak to the work that he's done so far with the sponsor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the board, legislative committee on February 5th voted to table that. I reached out to the co-sponsors in both chambers. We met on February 11th discussing the recommended changes in some of the language. They were very receptive to those changes. They actually thought about adding some provisions to the original bill. I have not heard back from them. They said they would get back in touch with me when they've collaboratively come up with an amendment to the original bill. But I have spoken to both of them.
Great. Do you know what the other additions?
It had to do with, what was it? Delete Me? It was a.
Delete Me is an online service for the removal of personal information online.
Yes. Yeah, that they thought of perhaps incorporating that into the bill.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Do you have any questions?
Are you able to highlight some of the changes that you discussed with them? And
Yes. Hold on. All right. The first concern I had on the bill was the language called for the may use a campaign funds / public funds. And in speaking with both the co-sponsors, they never intended that public funds to be matching public funds. It actually they understand that it would be private funds and not public funds. So there was absolutely no issue with striking that provision. Also, some of the language to make the wording consistent between candidate or elected official and election cycle. They were on board with that, and also to include campaign staff as a covered group under this statute as well. Those were the major provisions on that.
Thank you.
Rick, was there any discussion about the determination of the expenses being validated by the board itself?
No, there was no discussion on that.
Because that was, I think, Mr. DeSimone raised. I raised it. I think he did too. I think the counter to that was that there wouldn't be enough time to
approve it.
but you could have language that says that subject to approval and, language I could see even retroactively if
Mm.
needed, if there's an emergency, but, so there's basically no oversight as to the expense itself.
Mhm.
It's just the campaign making that determination independent of anybody else.
That's correct.
So I guess is a question, because I know we tabled it until we had the conversation. The question, I guess, for the committee would be, do we want to support it while we wait, or do we want to continue waiting until amendments are put? Usually amendments will be put in place until after a hearing is done.
Mhm.
So I also don't want to not make some type of sort of action in the board. So that's usually when the amendments are introduced.
I did notice that right at the end of the bill, it says the Board of Elections shall adopt rules and regulations as needed to
Mhm.
implement and enforce this chapter,
So is that what it is?
including standardized reporting formats and audit procedures. Was that in the last version, or is that
Mhm.
something new too? It was. So that, I mean, I personally would support this.
Yeah, I think my recommendation to the board generally was to support it, but I just thought some of the language
Yeah.
could be cleaned up on it, just for consistency. It makes educating about it a lot easier if the language conforms with
But the
existing language in
regulation
the statute.
couldn't address that. The issue I raised could not be in the reg because the statute says that it says the candidate or office holder shall determine.
Oh, that's
So
specific.
if you did a regulation that allowed the board to
Could
do
be like
it,
may
I got you.
determine. along.
it would actually,
Yeah.
it would actually exceed
Mhm.
the authority of the board.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I do want to point out, I understand council's point, but that's not done for any other campaign expenditure. The cost, let's say, of advertising and so on, it's not
not approved by you.
anything that we have to pre-authorize.
Mhm. Or even childcare, the childcare portion, like you
That's
don't
correct.
determine like how much is too much childcare.
Right.
Oh, that's
But
interesting.
don't you ultimately just make that determination if you do an investigation?
Exactly, it's part of the investigation if there's,
But this statute says it shall be determined by the candidate, not by the board.
okay.
I haven't seen that
Mhm.
before,
The
but
language of it.
that's just you can still support it. It's just
Yeah.
that it is noteworthy that it seems to be an independent
Mhm.
determination by the
individual.
candidate or the elected official.
So just a couple of points of
Yeah.
order for this. There is a Senate version of this that has been, which is going to be the next batch that I
Mhm.
cover with the Senate, but there is a Senate version 2334,
Mhm.
which is an identical bill. So any action the board takes,
Would take them both.
the committee takes should make a motion on both. We do have time because we will have to have another subcommittee meeting because there were 6 more bills introduced after we posted for this meeting. So there will be another subcommittee meeting probably
Mhm.
within the next week to week and a half to discuss the remaining bills that were introduced. So there is time for the subcommittee to review the revised language if we ever get that from the
Yeah.
co-sponsors.
No, and I hear that, and that's a really good point. And I don't know how you feel, Commissioner. I guess because even if we get language, the language won't be introduced to the committee until it's heard at all. And so I think it would be more proactive, especially because this month seems like they're running and they're actually hearing things. So I don't know if you're to be supportive of it with the, continuing to pay attention to the amendments and issues that we have. I don't know. Rather than wait. I'm fine with both, but I don't know if we handicap you. What if this is heard on next Tuesday?
I mean, there's certainly flexibility after the hearing happens regardless,
Mhm.
because even if it goes it still has to go for recommending passage. It'll be held for further study
Yeah.
generally. And then any changes could be made on the floor as
Mhm.
well. But I don't know if there's an urgency to this legislation. I know there's a concern, but I don't know if there's an urgency to
Yeah.
get it passed right away, or can it be something that they do final action on by May?
Mhm.
That's just something to consider. It is, and I don't know how you feel, Rick, but it is pretty It's pretty detailed legislation. So I think there were significant changes the board
Mhm.
recommended to it. So, I mean, if the committee feels comfortable and then presenting that to the board tomorrow,
Yeah.
but we don't know what the final version is going to look like yet, so.
Mhm.
But they were very receptive to all of the
Good.
recommendations, I believe, right? Correct,
That's
Will?
correct. My only concern is if they're looking to add and not just change some of the
Mm.
language, then the context of the bill could
Could
change entirely.
change. Got it.
You did mention that they want to add things to it,
Mhm.
so.
That's correct.
The digital part, yeah.
Yeah. I do generally support the bill. I think with council's concern with that line about the official or campaign themselves determining it, that is a concern. And the fact that the sponsors want to add more to it, I feel that we should probably table it.
That's
and
fine. Yeah. So you're gonna
Take
make
a
a
look at it
motion
again. I'll make the motion to table this
until we get.
until the next
language.
meeting.
And I'll
Okay.
second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
The next bill is in a similar situation.
Mhm.
House Bill 7434, introduced by Representative Geraldo and co-sponsors. This bill would prohibit ICE employees or agents or officials from being within 200 feet of any polling place during voting. I came up with some language initially, and legal counsel Ray McCarthy did a much better job than me in phrasing that. So I like his version better. And do you want to just, Ray, explain your changes there and what we were trying to accomplish based on feedback from the committee?
Yeah, this was, and I think we both had the same idea, Miguel, which is just to make sure that you can keep the agents, employees, officials outside of the polling place, except if they want to vote. And then we just wanted to tweak it a bit more by saying not only just to vote, but if they wanted to return their ballot.
Mhm.
So with that language added in the very end, we think that this would be a bill that you could consider supporting.
Agreed.
I have not heard back from the sponsor yet. I have made him aware of this version, the previous version, which was much simpler. This one includes the mail ballot, return for the mail ballot as well.
Yep.
Haven't heard back yet on whether he agrees or not agrees with it. It seems like a simple change to ensure that any ICE agents who are in the process of voting or returning their mail ballot, whether they're on duty or off duty, they would be able to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't have any information yet from the sponsor about that yet.
And this bill has a hearing on Wednesday.
Yes.
So would it be easier if instead of tabling, we push it till tomorrow in case you're able to hear from the sponsor by tomorrow? If we don't do it, or what would it be?
Certainly you could
Or we could
you
support
could
it with
vote
amendments.
to support our version.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah. and
Support
then
it with the amendments that the
with
Board
the
of
amended version. I did provide the version to the chair of the committee already. But I will provide it to the entire committee and the clerk once the final version is approved by the board.
Perhaps you could add language that allows Miguel, if he learns of similar language that achieves the same purpose
The
as
same
this
purpose.
amendment, that would be
Okay.
fine too.
Yep, correct.
I just had one quick question. I know at our last meeting, someone had mentioned that there's federal law relating to this. Do you know what that is and what language that has?
I didn't look at any federal law on this. I didn't see any other issues on the Rhode Island side of it.
Okay.
And we
I
are,
was just curious just to see if it was consistent.
Whatever you'd like.
Thank you. Be something for Ray to review perhaps prior to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Don't know if it's troops at the polls. I don't know if
They're not true.
it's government employees or
Armed Our men, well, yeah, okay.
That might be a little different, but I'll be happy
Yeah.
to review that.
Yeah, to see how it compares, yeah. Okay. Because it's, yeah. I think the language you have is more specific.
It is more specific. This has language that would indicate that the officer, so here we'd be using the ICE officer, but this is from the armed forces, so we could use this language as well. Nothing shall prevent the person from exercising the right of suffrage in any election district to which he may belong, if otherwise qualified according to the laws of the state. So we could adopt this language. I think
Mhm.
our language
Does the
does the
same
same thing, but
Yeah, I agree.
we could also do this version.
Yeah, I think yours is exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, that, it sounds
better language.
consistent with that part that you read there.
I agree.
So I'm happy to support this with our
Amendment.
amendment to it.
And
If you don't mind, would I be able to take a look at it?
Yeah, it's that last two sentences or one sentence at the bottom.
So we have a motion to support with our amendments, to support our amendments. And I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, the next bill is House Bill 7669. That bill was introduced by Representative Breen, and this act would limit early voting to a total of 10 non-consecutive days preceding Election Day, and it would include weekend days immediately preceding the election in 8 days. So regarding this bill, I hesitate to say we are opposed to, the staff is opposed to it, because it's certainly a policy decision, how many days of early voting the General Assembly would like to allow. That's their purview. However, there is a little bit of concern about the fact that it was introduced in sort of like the provisional voting subsection of the law, which I'm not sure that entirely is where it should be. And then it also essentially does not touch the emergency voting component. And as you know, early voting and provisional voting, early voting and emergency voting are sort of intertwined, whereas early voting is essentially a form of emergency voting. It's in the emergency voting section. So this statute would, in essence, potentially make changes to the quote unquote early voting, but doesn't essentially detach early voting from emergency voting. And then, so we could have potentially some conflicting statutes for emergency voting versus early voting when this doesn't really separate them entirely. That's the best I can describe it. So in terms of there's no position on the number of days of early voting. That's a policy decision. That would be up to the board members to decide you on that. But as far as the technicalities of it, I believe it's a fairly broad bill. There's another bill in here that's like that too, but that I don't think makes the appropriate changes in all of the sections that need to be changed. So my view is that there's no position on it, but it really, I think it needs to be looked at in terms of the impact on emergency voting.
Is this because there was a bill similar last year. Was it this one?
I have the list of all previous bills
So
here.
remember there was one reducing days.
No, this one is actually fairly new, I believe. I don't have this on my list
That's
of
okay.
previous, but
Okay.
I believe this is actually new, at least compared as compared to last year.
Okay. Any questions?
And I believe
Sounds like-
it was broken out from
Mhm.
the previous bill. I believe there was a bill that had to do with early voting or so this was separated out from the bill to make it a separate item rather than doing too many things in one bill.
Do you have any comments,
I
questions?
have no comments, but I tend to agree with the director's take no position on it.
Alright.
I can make that as a motion if you'd like.
And I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next bill is House Bill 7783. This is introduced by Representative Newberry and Corvese. This act would repeal authorizing Rhode Island to join an interstate compact, which would allow presidents and vice presidents to be elected by national popular vote. Staff has no position on this.
Did we take a vote on a similar bill last year? Do you know?
It sounds familiar.
No, this bill, this is actually a statute that was introduced many, many years ago.
Okay.
I believe it was during some controversy surrounding the presidential candidate not winning the popular vote, but winning the presidency.
Mhm.
This came about then, so this is something that has not come up recently in terms of trying to repeal it.
Okay.
I think similar to this is more of a policy question for
Correct.
public and legislators.
Agreed. Make a motion to take no position.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Next bill is House Bill 7784. This act would change the manner by which presidential electoral college electors are elected. It would create a system of grouping of municipalities of equal populations. And one of each is Rhode Island electoral votes, with the winner of each group for the presidential elections and each group receiving one electoral vote. Staff has no position on this.
Questions?
I'd move to take no position.
And I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next bill is House Bill 7785. This act would provide for the nonpartisan election of the Attorney General commencing with the 2030 election. Staff has no position on this.
Similarly, I'll move that we take no position.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This act would, House Bill 7786, introduced by Representatives Newberry. Similarly, this act would provide for the nonpartisan election of the Secretary of State commencing with the 2030 election. No position from the staff.
I need to take no position.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The final House bill I have before you today is House Bill 7787. This is introduced by Representatives Breen and co-sponsored by various co-sponsors. This act would allow an early voting ballot applications to be completed in person using an electronic poll pad provided by the Board of Canvassers with proof of identity. A voter would then be provided with a Secretary of State issued ballot to be placed into the state-approved electronic voting device. All voter and election protections and procedures would govern the 20 days of the early voting period. So again, this is similar to the other bill where it's difficult to say that the staff has no position because the staff has actually almost completed some rules and regulations on early voting to present to the board soon, which would essentially do the same thing because the law does not address it. So this bill has been introduced in various forms over the years to bring early voting into sort of the same requirements as voting at the polls, which, as we found previously with the 50-foot rule, that applies to the polls on election day, doesn't necessarily apply to early voting. And there are various requirements at the polls that by statute don't apply to to early voting, because as I said earlier, early voting is considered mail voting, emergency mail voting in the statute. So when I went through the statute with the staff, it does make the attempt to bring the requirements of the requirements and procedures for election day to early voting. So what it essentially does is it does strike the carve out for early voting under emergency voting, and it does say that all of the and as the language says specifically, it says as practical, it creates a separate early voting section. And again, it's under 24.4, which is essentially where early voting and harbor requirements live. It says in B, as practical, all the voter and elections protections and procedures provided by Chapter 19, Title 17, which is the statute that governs Election Day, shall govern the 20-day early voting period. I don't know how our legal counsel feels on that, but I think that the as practical is pretty broad. Again, that might be legally sufficient to apply anything that would make sense to apply at early voting, but Election Day has many different requirements in terms of signage, affidavits that the poll workers need to sign, responsibilities in the morning, in the evening, during the day, challenges, party checkers, runners, watchers. There are all sorts of requirements that over the last 80 years have been implemented for Election Day. And in the regulation that we're trying to finalize, it sort of picks those that make sense to apply to early voting to place into the regulation. Whereas this would say the word as practical, but then not sure if that's too overly broad to apply everything as practical to early voting. So
Yeah,
that was the only concern.
I dislike that clause, as you do. We haven't spoken about this. I'd be happy to look at it, but we haven't really spoken about what we might want to do instead, like the staff. But that clause is somewhat problematic. It would be better if it just says something to the effect that as to be determined by the board, unless accepted by the board, all requirements shall apply. Something along that line would be better, but we haven't had that discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, especially what you mentioned, right? Even the challenges and the runners. That's such a good point. There's so many layers to it.
And in Section A, they do make an attempt to include the board's
Yeah.
administration of it, but it seems to tie it specifically to
this
the
specific action.
security, place the ballot into the state-approved electronic voting device provided by the Board of Elections and secured in accordance with the policy adopted by the Board of Elections. So it seems to limit the board's administration of it to the security of that particular unit and not to the overall administration. So again, I understand the legislation is trying to bring some of the rules of surrounding early voting, the Election Day voting to early voting, and that's sort of what the staff is going to present to the board soon with regulation. But I don't know if this might be too overly broad, and perhaps myself and legal counsel Makashu can discuss it further and reach out to the sponsor. This bill has been introduced for 2 years and has not governed any has not passed. Obviously, has not gained any traction in the assembly.
For those reasons, I feel like the board should not support this bill. However, if you think there's room to reach out and have a discussion with the sponsors first, I'm happy to hold off, but I'm also willing and feel that there's enough here to move to not support it.
It's pretty extensive, I think, what it would need if it was going to be ready for board approval. I believe it would have to be pretty extensive. I know we have a couple of members of the Board of Canvassers here. I don't know if they want to give their feedback, Mr. Narducci, Mr. Lima. But again, it essentially is doing what the regulation is going to try to do, but in a very broad fashion.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and Nick Lima on behalf of the Rhode Island County Clerks Association, as well as the Grand Board of Canvassers. So we do have an elections committee call scheduled tomorrow, and this is one of the bills on our agenda to discuss. But the same concerns that we had last year, that catch-all language, everything that applies to Election Day applies to this. That's problematic for us because there are a number of issues for the cities and towns that we'd have to to figure out how to handle if that were the case. There are certainly things that we, by practice, and I think soon to be by regulation as well, will do in regards to early voting that make sense. There are other things that don't make sense, and just having a sort of a carte blanche statute that requires us to apply everything without individually listing out those statutes is a problem. I did reach out to the sponsor a couple years ago when this was being floated around, and I think I wrote 7 pages full of different statutes that could be referenced if this would be to be done that way. And this way is a little more, everything that applies. And like I said, that's tough for us because it doesn't really give us much clarity in terms of what the law actually is.
So it would be up to the committee if you want no position or oppose.
Yeah, and I appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
We'll always look forward to hearing the local take on it. So I would move to not support this piece of
And I'll
legislation.
second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to the Senate bills that we have. Second. So the first bill is Senate Bill 2491. This is a companion bill that the board has already voted to support, for no position. This act would change the dates for the election of delegates to the convention from the fourth Tuesday in April to the first Tuesday in March. This was introduced by Senator Lamountain and various co-sponsors. So there would be the same position as the original.
I'll make the motion to take no position on Senate. Which one was it? 2491.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the second bill was already discussed as far as the House version.
Yep.
This was the new version. And I believe the board already voted on Senate Bill 2334. So the remaining 3 bills are new bills that are being introduced. The first is from Senator Morgan. It's 2486, Senate Bill 2486. And this act will require verification of the applicant's date of birth in either the Rhode Island driver's license number or the state identification numbers for all applications seeking mail ballots and emergency mail ballots. Again, this is similar to a bill introduced by the board recently this year. The staff doesn't have any position on.
I personally like ours better. I also, as I'm reading this, maybe it's me, right? So, because it's 2 different things. It's proof of the date of birth and a driver's license or ID. Isn't that the same thing?
Could be, but I, for that reason, I don't know what else you're looking for.
I don't know how else I could prove my birthday.
I will say that in 2024, the board voted to have no position on it. 2025, the board voted to oppose it.
And the board's bill, we've already discussed that
Yeah.
and voted.
That's
Support it,
currently
yeah.
being
Yeah.
assembled. Yeah.
So I'd move to take no position on that.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next bill, the last 2 bills to discuss today, is Senate Bill 2593, introduced by Senator Thompson and various co-sponsors. This act would redefine political party and define and distinguish between major parties and minor parties based on the total number of votes of a candidate's party received in the previous election amongst other factors. The staff does not have any position on this bill.
We've had this one before. I remember this one
Recently.
Yeah. last year.
Did we take a
I think we
vote?
took no position on it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move to take no position.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The final bill is also a new bill, which is 2619, introduced by Senators McKinney. And this act would remove corporate and dark money spending from all Rhode Island elections and ballot questions by revoking all previously granted artificial person powers and regranting a narrower set of powers sufficient for ordinary business, charitable, cooperative, and organizational activity, but excluding political spending power. And I believe Rick Thornton has some information he'd like to share with the board in terms of the staff's position on this particular piece of legislation.
Well, the staff's recommendation is to take no position on the bill. I did have some concerns with some of the provisions in the proposal. It also defines political spending power as a legal capacity to pay, contribute, expend, transfer, or disperse money or anything of value to support or oppose, one, a candidate, political party, or political committee, and two, an initiative, referendum, recall, constitutional amendment, charter amendment, or other question formally certified or submitted to the electors. Rhode Island General Law 1725-10.1 H, E, and J already prohibit contributions as proposed in the political spending power prohibition to support or oppose a candidate, political party, or political committee. H says it shall be unlawful for any corporation, whether profit or nonprofit, domestic or foreign corporation, or other business entity to make any campaign contribution or expenditure to or for any candidate, political action committee, or political party committee. And J states no entity other than an individual, a political action committee, which is duly registered and qualified pursuant to the terms of Chapter 25, political party committee authorized by Title 17, or an authorized committee of an elected official or candidate shall make any contribution to or expenditure on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate, political action committee, or political party committee. As far as the prohibition on political spending for essentially referendum or ballot questions, again, it would contradict what the 1725.2 and 1725.3 already allow. And again, which do allow persons to expend funds to support or oppose statewide and local ballot questions. And persons is defined as individual, partnership, committee, association, corporation, union, charity, and/or any other organization, city, town, or other government unit. So again, my staff recommendation would be to take no position on this
Take no
bill.
position. Alright, no, This is a bigger fish.
Move to take no position.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
And that concludes my presentation for legislation as of today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Do we have a motion to end our committee meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Tomorrow, since we have